Welcome to English Jesus Jingles, a channel dedicated to exploring and shedding light on the fascinating and meaningful stories found in the Bible. In this space, we will embark on an enlightening journey through time, unraveling the ancient accounts that have shaped cultures, beliefs, and philosophies. The Bible is a rich source of wisdom and inspiration, and through this channel, we aim to unveil its timeless messages, providing clarity and understanding for those seeking to delve into the narratives and teachings within the sacred pages. So subscribe to the channel, leave a like, and share with your family and friends. As we launch this fabulous channel, we've decided to bring you some information about the history of the Bible. The Bible is an important book. However, it is very extensive. Yes, it's a collection of many books written over a long period of time, but together they tell a unified story. So what is the story of the Bible? It begins by introducing us to a beautiful mind, the author of all reality, a being called God. He has the power to take the dark chaos of an uncreated world and bring order, beauty, and a garden full of life. To crown this achievement, God designates these creatures called human beings, or in Hebrew, Adam. They are created in the image of God. This means they were meant to rule this beautiful world for God, exploring all its potential and creating even more beauty and order. This is a story about people using their power to do meaningful and enriching work. But a question arises. How does humanity now face a choice represented by a fruitful tree? People could collaborate with God and find freedom by trusting in His knowledge of good and evil. Or they could grasp the power to define good and evil for themselves, which God warns would lead them to death. They listen to the voice of a dark and mysterious creature that tells them the choice is easy. Take the fruit. It will give them power and freedom to rule the world on their own terms. So they seize this knowledge. As a result, they become mistrustful and defensive. This leads to broken relationships, violent grabs for power, and ultimately to an entire civilization, Babylon, that redefined evil as good. Thus, God disperses this corrupted human project. Here, the Bible's story takes a significant turn. We quickly move to the story of a man and a woman who left Babylon, Abraham and Sarah. God promises them that from them will arise a new people, a nation with a new opportunity to make the right choice. If they succeed, indeed they will open this new path for others. For this reason, most of the Bible's story is about this family. Things don't go well. Despite God's personal leadership, Abraham's family succumbs to the same temptation to redefine good and evil on their own terms without God. Even when their best men are in power, rulers who love God's leadership and have divine wisdom, they fail. Israel was warned by their prophets that these choices would lead them to Babylonian captivity, this time as slaves, and that is exactly what happens. Even with God's personal leadership, Israel fails. Who can save them? The prophets said the story wasn't over. God will send a new leader to Israel to cover their failures and transform the hearts and minds of the people so they make the right decision. Therefore, the part of the Bible called the Old Testament ends. These promises remain in the air. Then the biblical story continues in the New Testament. We are introduced to a man who comes from the line of the kings of Israel, Jesus of Nazareth. He said he was fulfilling all these promises. He confronted and resisted the mysterious and evil force to which all of humanity was subject. Then he announced that God had come to rule the world through him. Jesus taught God's definition of good and evil. He said that true power lies in serving others. According to Jesus, people who love the poor and even their enemies are the ones who will truly rule the world. It is disconcerting, but also very beautiful. Similarly is the claim the story makes about Jesus, that he is God made flesh to be for Israel and all humanity what we cannot be for ourselves. He came to take the consequences of our wickedness upon himself. His sacrificial love was demonstrated as more powerful than death itself. Now humanity stands at a new choice, represented by a new tree. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. The earth was formless and empty, and darkness covered the deep waters, and the Spirit of God was hovering over the surface of the waters. Then God said, "Let there be light." And there was light. God saw that the light was good, and he separated the light from the darkness. God called the light day and the darkness night. And evening passed, and morning came, marking the first day. On the following 6 days, God continued his creative work. He separated the waters and created the atmosphere, dividing the waters above from the waters below. He formed the dry ground, the plants, the sun, the moon, and the stars, the fish and the birds, the land animals. And finally, he created man in his own image and likeness. Male and female, he created them. God called the man Adam and the woman Eve, and placed them in the Garden of Eden. a place of beauty and abundance. God blessed them and gave them the responsibility to care for the earth and to multiply. He gave them free will, the ability to choose between good and evil. However, Adam and Eve disobeyed God. Following the counsel of the serpent that deceived them, they ate from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, which God had forbidden. As a result, sin entered the world, and communion between God and humanity was broken. God did not abandon humanity to its fate. He promised a Redeemer, someone who would come to reconcile humanity to him. Throughout the Scriptures, God chose and used individuals like Abraham, Moses, David, and many others to convey his message and prepare the way for the fulfillment of his promise. The story of the Bible is a narrative of God's love, mercy, and grace toward humanity. It reveals God's pursuit to restore the lost relationship and offer salvation through his Son, Jesus Christ. The New Testament tells us about the coming of Jesus, his ministry, sacrifice on the cross, resurrection, and promise of his return to take those who believe in his name to eternal life, to continue on the old path of living, or to risk entering this new way. In this story, those who choose the way of Jesus understand that they are empowered by the power of God. People who know they are loved and forgiven by God can become people who love and forgive others too. The movement of Jesus spread rapidly throughout the world, forming new communities of people who follow the way of Jesus. But they face problems. They are rejected by those in power, internally struggling and even compromising. Yes, because following Jesus is very difficult. So the leaders of the movement, called the apostles, write letters to encourage and challenge these communities to remain faithful to the difficult way of Jesus. They are called to wait for the day when Jesus will return and transform everything. The Bible ends by pointing us to that future, when all that is distorted will be corrected, evil will be eradicated, and heaven and earth will come together, and humanity will be able to rule the world together in the love and power of God. That's the story of the Bible. It brings together all these books,